Hello, enthusiastic coders. I'm excited to get everybody started learning Python. This is mostly intended for my students, although we might have some other HiCap students from Mount Vernon and join us as well. Um, but you know what? Students often tell me what's the language that they should start learning first, and I always say Python. So I was super excited and thankful that Tinker, which is an online learn to code site, is offering free subscriptions until the end of the school year. And so I signed us up, and I'd like to do a regular kind of a coding lesson. And eventually, I'd like to start doing live lessons for students who have any questions. Now, I'm not a coder by profession, but I am a school teacher who has coded quite a bit in my life. And Python, while it's not my first language, I do understand the basics of it. So there are a few kind of, interesting, specific kinds of things that you need to know to get you through a lot of this. And that's what I was hoping to help you with. So I have assigned you to Python 101. Now, Python is a coding language, and there are lots of coding languages. There's C++, Java, JavaScript, um, and of course Python. And this is a very popular coding language that is used in a lot of different areas. And so that's why I'm saying it's very useful. And it's also what syntactically, when I say syntax, that means like the rules that you have to follow when you type in your code is relatively straightforward in Python, which is really good for new people. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to walk you through the first couple lessons and help you get started. So we're going to start. We're going to start with the basics, of course. And I'd like you to go ahead and make sure that you read through all of this, okay? I'm not going to read it through for you, but I'll assume that you've read it by the time that you have progressed to lesson 2. Okay, so this is a video that you can watch on your own. And once again, I'll assume that you have watched this by the time you go to lesson 3. Okay, Jungle Run. So in this entry-level coding um, page, we're going to use the command forward. And in this one, you need to understand that it's from the perspective of the character, not your perspective, their perspective. So if you're thinking about the fact that you're this person and that they need to move forward, you're moving forward. Whenever you say forward, it's the player moving forward. So in this case, what we'll do is just try to run what we already have. And so in this case, we only have one line. In line number 1, we have forward. And it's very important that you follow syntax. Whenever you type these in, it has to be spelled exactly correct, and it has to be all lowercase in this case. Now, you also have to have the uh, opening parentheses and closing parentheses to end this command. And also always make sure that you end your line with an enter. In Python, it's essential that you end every line with an enter. While you don't see it, it's there. It's like an invisible character, and that tells the computer that this is the end of one line and the beginning of a next. So please make sure you always press enter at the end of each line. So we're going to go ahead and hit play. Okay, so we didn't get to where we wanted to be. Um, in this case, we wanted to get to that bag of dust. So we didn't quite go far enough. And so what we'll need to do in this case is give the command, get rid of this, give the command to move forward twice. So later on, we'll have some ways to do this without having to write each line, but for now, it's good practice. So we're going to type FORWARD, and what you're going to see is that it gives you a little suggestion for what it thinks you're trying to call for. This is a huge time save whenever you're trying to type. When you see the suggestion and it agrees with what you want to do, just hit tab. And what that does is it autofills. And then you can do your open and close parentheses. And if we run this again, we should see that he moves forward twice and gets the prize. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one really quickly. Let's take a look at this one. Now, this one, Again, we only have the one call of forward. Now she's going to have to go 1, 2, 3 times forward. So we're going to type forward. Okay, we're going to open, close our parentheses. Make sure you always hit enter, and you always have to spell your words correctly. If for some reason the word turns orange, that means that there's something wrong. Okay, forward. All right, and again, go forward, open, close, and let's try running this and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to do this again and show you a common mistake that students make. Let's imagine they don't really pay attention to the syntax in this case, meaning all of the letters in the word for the command has to be in lowercase. So I'm going to say forward, close, and I'm going to say forward, but you'll notice I made an error. And computer programming, details matter. You cannot get a character wrong. And in this case, you'll see forward has an uppercase letter. It does not like that. Okay, so let's run it and see what happens. And it is going to throw an error because there is no such thing as forward with a capital F. So whenever you're doing this, make sure that you spell everything correctly. Make sure that you end every line with an enter. And in this case, when we call commands, we are having it end with an open parentheses and close parentheses. For now, just accept the syntax that you have to do in order for that to run. So now we should have a successful code that gets us through this level. Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to the next one here. Now we're going to have a new command that's going to allow us to turn. So every single thing that happens in a computer program has to be explicitly told. So we're going to have to move forward. We're going to need to turn right. And in this case, you're going to see that between the two words that we're going to use for the command, TURN, turn right, open close parentheses, enter, you're going to see that there is an underscore. You must have the underscore. If it doesn't have the underscore, it doesn't recognize it as a command. So in this case, we're going to move forward, we're going to turn right, but we're still not there. After he turns right, we'll need to move forward one more time. And we're going to accept that. We'll run the code. At times it seems a bit repetitive, but it takes time and it takes a lot of practice, and making sure that you're fluent in typing and understanding the syntax is really, really important. Okay, so let's take a look at this one now. So this is a level that we start to see ramps, and the ramps are a little confusing because they don't quite count as a regular block, and I'll show you why. So in this case, we have a command that we start off with as fire. So if we go down and look at what the description of fire does, it says it launches an arrow that travels 5 blocks in the direction of the character is facing. So if you're within 5 blocks of this person, this character that needs to be fired upon, go ahead and do it because you don't want to get right on top of it before you fire. So in this case, we are going to start with fire before we move forward. So we're going to type in forward. Okay. After that, we move forward. So what I'd like to do before we type in an entire block of code, I like to do what's called unit testing. So write a couple lines of code, test it, check it out, see if that's exactly what you want to happen. So let's just write 2 lines of code and see what happens. We're going to fire, we're going to move forward. Now she's stuck at the bottom of the ramp, so let's go ahead and move forward one more time to get us to the top of the ramp. Once again, I end that line with an enter. We're going to move forward. And we'll see what happens. Play it. Once again, we're unit testing. It's always good to kind of check each line to make sure that, yeah, that's exactly what I want to happen. So after we move forward, there, we are going to fire again before we move forward. So we're going to fire, fire, enter. Let's see if this works. Once again, it's really helpful. To me, it is to unit test. A couple lines at a time, test to see if that's what you want. So let's go ahead and add one more line of code here. We're going to move forward and open close parentheses, and we're going to run that and see where that puts us. We're so close. We're going to fire, move forward, forward, fire, forward. Oh, I need one more to get us there. So we're going to go ahead and put in one more line of code that tells us to move forward. And we're going to run that, and that should get us to our destination. Okay, fire, forward, forward, fire, forward, forward, and we got the treasure. So let's go ahead and end that for today. This is plenty to start with. There's lots more to learn. And please keep in mind, coding is a lot about learning from your mistakes. And trust me, there are going to be a lot of mistakes that are made along the way. And that's how you get better. Coding, honestly, is not easy. And you have to go into it with the mindset of this is going to be challenging. There's going to be times when I get stuck. There's going to be times when I have a really hard time. But trust me, when you work through those problems, it is the greatest feeling whenever you figure out where the bug was or you figure out how the code works. So stick with it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way for you to gain some really valuable skills. So until next time, thank you.